Good morning, Mr. B. Are you on the East Coast?
Yeah, Newcastle, Pennsylvania.
Excellent. You win the award for furthest away.
About
For furthest away.
Okay, we're live on YouTube. I was gonna say about 15 years ago or so, I flew from Iliamna, Alaska to a job fair in Pennsylvania at Slippery Rock University. Hired a couple teachers to bring back to rural Alaska with me. And Richard Beer is one of them. Was that about 15 years ago, Mr. B?
Yeah, 2009, 2010. So about 10 years ago.
10 years ago.
Yeah.
Math might be a little off today.
Don't worry.
I'm in the cohort that doesn't have math first quarter. So
well, it's been 5 years since March anyhow. So that's
yeah, it
just
has.
Yeah.
That's why I thought it's exactly why I thought it's been 15 years and not 10 years. Good response, Mr. B, because it's been 5 years since March. That's pretty accurate. Good morning, everybody. Everyone who's joined us on Zoom and everyone who might be watching us live on YouTube or not live on YouTube. What we found doing this series last spring is that we do have parents who can't get on with us from 8 to 9 a.m. and they actually go and watch the YouTube feed later and they appreciate having it. So it's kind of cool. So whenever and wherever you're watching it, this is Morning Coffee with STrEAM Academy. Your principal, Adam Mokelke. Really glad that you could join us for our first morning coffee of the new school year. It's funny, I've been in education for 20 years, and so I confuse non-educators sometimes because I refer to a year often in terms of a school year, this year or last year. And so if you're in finance, you might do that, I guess, with fiscal year. Because for me, a year doesn't change in January so much as a year is a school year. So this is the new year. Sometime in July is the new year, right? New fiscal year, new school year begins. I come back to work and Miss Bionich comes back to work, and in normal times we are preparing for teachers to come back and then for them preparing for kids to come back. It is July 22nd, Wednesday, and I think we probably have a lot to discuss, and I think I really want to preface this morning by saying I am open now and always to all of your questions, your suggestions, your feedback, and your concerns. I do want to be clear that I don't pretend to have all the answers, and I may not be able to answer a lot of questions today, and that's hard because I have a sense as the principal that I'm supposed to have all the answers, but I think I need to start by admitting up front I may not. But I can promise you this: we're going to do our best to find the answers and to figure this out and to make things work well for STREAM families. That's what we're here for. So I think we may end up with a lot of questions that we're tackling today, and that's would be a great way to spend the show. I do want to talk about a few things. Just sort of in general sense. So for back to school, I know this is changing rapidly. We until yesterday, really, until today, we've been planning on students returning in person August 20th, because that was the direction of the school district, and building a schedule around that. The way I understand from the district, families have 4 options, right? The first would be maybe now possibly taken off the table, but the first would be to return to school in person when we return in person. And of course, that's what we're all hoping for. The second option ASD is offered, which I think is really the big variable for us, the one we really need to dig in and figure out, is ASD virtual, and what ASD virtual will look like if we are back in school in person face to face and you still are not comfortable having your child attend face to face. We want you to remain with STrEAM Academy. You're our family, you're our responsibility, and we do not want families to feel like if we're back face to face and you're not comfortable that you have to find another program or option. And so we're working with ASD on what ASD virtual will look like so that you can remain enrolled in STrEAM and connected with your STrEAM family, and doing STrEAM connected things. And we're really going to make sure that you stay connected, that we keep you connected, and yet you can continue education online through ASD virtual. I'm learning more about ASD virtual today. I have a meeting today to with the folks at ASD who are tasked with designing and implementing ASD virtual. Charter school principals are meeting on Zoom at 11 o'clock today to figure that out. So as soon as I have more information on ASD virtual, I'll be pushing that out to parents. The other options, of course, are options that I hope parents don't have to choose, but we will support you 100% if it's what you feel is best for your family. And those options would be to look for another program, a true homeschool program, do something different that way. And we have had families who have done that. We have talked about how really STREAM is close to a lot of homeschool programs. A lot of our families have had students in homeschool and then come to us, or look at homeschool as one of the options they consider along with STREAM before they consider traditional neighborhood schools. So those are sort of the options we're looking at for coming back to school. When we come back, what I do know is we will be on a cohort quarter model. So what that means is instead of having the classes we normally offer for a full semester, we'll break those in half essentially, and students will have only 3 classes at a time per quarter, and then they'll switch at quarter. And so what we've developed at STREAM so far is sort of a math science cohort for a quarter and an English language arts cohort for a quarter. So first quarter, you might have math, science, and then the third block, which I'll get into. And then first quarter, you may have that. And then you'd switch second quarter to having ELA, language arts, and social studies. And so we've got a pretty good schedule developed for that with class sizes that wouldn't exceed 20 students. And we're pretty confident, pretty excited about that model. The piece I wanted that we're really excited about with that model when we return to school is students will have less classes to focus on at a time, which a lot of families said was a priority, was a concern of theirs last spring when there was so many classes, and you're trying to do that virtually. And it also is really more conducive to project-based learning. It will really allow teachers to dig in and spend more time and do bigger cross-curricular projects. So if you've got a math class, a science class, and that third block, that allows a group of students and teachers to really flex that time and dig deeper into project-based learning and real-world problem solving and things that are much more close to the heart of STREAM Academy, to what we're trying to get at. So we're excited about that. I've presented it to quite a few of our teachers, and that this model and how we have it set up, and the teachers are really excited. Ms. Drager was in yesterday. She was really excited about the prospects. And one of the really exciting things, a lot of schools are doing similar to us. They're doing 2 core blocks and then an elective or advisory or something of that nature. And so what we really are reserving that third block for, I've been calling mission and vision. On paper, it might say elective or project class, but really it's a block of time that gives teachers the flexibility to extend and to do the 3 things in our mission and vision, the 3 pillars or the 3 circles, we call them. Do we have the 3 circles graphic we can put up? Maybe Sylvia to at any rate, it's the direction teachers will give is some structure and then a lot of flexibility with that project time. The three circles, the three things in our mission vision are project-based learning, outdoor and experiential education, and STEM. And so you can take math, science, or language arts, social studies blocks, and then take that third block of time and do things that are one or two or all three of those. Extended project learning time, which is awesome. It could be outdoor experiential education, where you're taking the things we're learning in the classroom in those subjects and taking them outdoors and, you know, extending that learning in an experiential way, which is important to us. And of course, block of time to add the STEM elements that we're doing, whether it's rocketry or robotics or other, you know, science-based, you know, the types of experiments and explorations that if you've had a child with Miss Goodman or Soul Sopple, you're familiar with those. So we're really excited about that. I know I'm kind of starting off here by talking quite a bit, so I think I want to get to a place quickly where I can take questions and kind of discuss things. Other things I do want to touch on are adopting Canvas. We're adopting ASD's Canvas platform to make things a little more seamless with what the rest of the district's doing. And really just the emphasis on outdoor education, outdoor experiential learning time, where we already have that emphasis, and we really want to meet the concerns about virus and the spread of virus by, you're still sharing your screen, Mrs. Beyondich. You can unshare if you want, by getting outside a lot. So I think it's a good place for me to take a pause. That was a lot of talking. And we can come back to some of these things or see what kind of questions people have out there. You can use the chat box, of course, and Mrs. Beyondich can kind of help facilitate questions in the chat box. And she'll usually read them to me or tell me what they are, and then we can talk about them. You can also use the little blue raised hand, or if nobody's talking and it works, you can jump in and grab the mic.
Hi, Adam. This is Katie. I'm
Hi, Katie.
navigating from the phone, and I don't know how to raise my hand on here. So
Okay.
I do have some questions, that going into the virtual meeting today, if you may have these very same questions, but if you could kind of listen for these with the ASD virtual. I have a couple questions. One is if the curriculum in the ASD virtual will be the same, or if students will be offered the same option to follow the online curriculum that their peers are using in their homeschool program, in this case STrEAM. I would hope that would be supported so that kids could stay as connected as possible, including curriculum wise. I've heard some things, I don't know, a lot of rumors and questions out there, but I've heard suggestion that potentially that ASD virtual will not be following the same, but I don't know that. So clearly that's something that hasn't been announced yet, but that's a big question. And then my second part of that is how easily can families move in and out of the ASD virtual as their comfort level, may shift as decisions are being made with the changing COVID situation. So how quickly, how easily can they move in and out of that? And to that point, that would argue that if students in ASD virtual were using the same online curriculum as their peers in their school, that would facilitate moving in and out of that model at home versus virtual. So those are my big questions.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. Those are good questions. I jotted them down, and I have some of the same questions. And it's going to be really interesting for us to figure that out, especially the connection with the school and with what we're doing. So one of the things I have to sort out is if, how much we're going to use ASD virtual, and because side by side, we'll continue doing what we did last year, what we did before the pandemic, which was that our teachers, one of the reasons I think we were maybe more ready to go than some when we had to make the switch is our teachers have always used Google Classroom to supplement their face-to-face instruction. It's been a standard at our school, so that before March last year, if your student had a math class with Mr. B, he had a Google Classroom that went with that math class, and he posted assignments and resources and things on there. All of our teachers were set up that way. And so we will use Canvas the same way, where students will have, for every face-to-face class, every class they're enrolled in that they would be or are with a teacher, they also have a Canvas class with assignments and so forth to back that up. And so that does what you're asking for, Katie. Really, like that's the way we've been able to stay more seamless and make it so that students can move in and out of face-to-face instruction and not completely lose touch with what's going on with their peers and where they're at. And so if ASD looks entirely different than that, that brings us to another decision point on how we want to proceed with that. I have some thoughts on that, but I'm going to find out as much as I can, and hopefully next week on Wednesday Coffee next week, we'll talk a lot more about ASD virtual. Thanks. Does anyone else want to jump in and ask questions, or do we have any in the chat box?
Yeah, can I ask a question?
Sure.
Okay, this is Jocelyn Childs. How are you, sir?
Good. How are you? Thanks for joining
I'm
us.
good. Yes. So the question is, how does the IEP gets incorporated on these type of modules?
Good question. So we have two teachers who are special education certified teachers, one of whom does more instruction and other things for us, and one of whom, Chris Kracia, who really manages and heads up special education for STrEAM Academy. And Chris is awesome. She's incredible. And I hate to parse out who did a great job on different levels during the pandemic, because our teachers and our staff were amazing. But I mean, the job that she did managing special education and IEPs when we closed school last spring was phenomenal. Special education got hit with a lot of expectations and requirements and sort of mandates from the federal government on how to proceed to continue to provide services. And our special ed department, led by Ms. Kracia, just did a phenomenal job. She was on Zoom, face-to-face, one-on-one with our students with IEPs constantly. She was constantly reaching out to families. They held amendment meetings with every one of our students that had IEPs and made amendments and adjustments to, essentially to say, here, how can we continue to meet your needs if we're not meeting face-to-face? And so that's what I expect to continue. If we do have to do virtual learning for a while, students with IEPs, those families are going to hear from Ms. Kracia and from our special ed team right away. We're going to make adjustments to how we can meet needs and provide the additional supports that you need. And then you're going to hear from them often. So they had, our students with IEPs had face-to-face, one-on-one meetings by Zoom very regularly last year, and that I expect that to continue.
Yes, sir. But I want to say, you guys, I give kudos to all of you guys. Miss Christie is so good, and everybody else in there, you've given us really all the support that we've needed and much more. But I want to say thank you to everything that you guys do. That's an excellent, IEP is an excellent program that you guys are doing, and they're very well in touch with the students. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate the feedback. And I think one of the things I'm really proud about is STrEAM Academy is, I think we have always done a really good job of meeting the needs of our students experiencing a disability, or students who need additional supports and have an IEP or a 504 plan. And that can be a challenge for small schools when you have smaller staff and less resources. And quite frankly, I know it is out there that's not something charter schools are known for, is providing a really high level of services compared to the neighborhood schools that are set up that way. But we always have, and I can't take any credit for it. We've just got great staff. Well, thanks. I see a blue hand up. Go ahead.
That's me.
You go
Hi.
ahead.
I was curious about Canvas and if we'll be using it to replace Google Classrooms, and if not, how Google Classrooms and Canvas work together.
That's a great question. I don't know 100% the answers. I have an idea. What I've been told and what I understand by people who understand both platforms is Canvas doesn't necessarily have to replace Google Classroom, that our teachers can still use Google Classroom. What Canvas has that the reason I finally decided our school needed to adopt Canvas, what Canvas has is it talks directly to Q, to the grade system. So if teachers put in an assignment in Canvas, it automatically populates in the grade book. And they put in a grade, it automatically populates. And so they're not having to copy things over constantly with their assignments and so forth. And so that's a big advantage. And just and frankly, another big advantage of Canvas, and the reason I decided we really needed to add this tool at STrEAM is because the district adopted it. They are putting their massive, ASD school district resources behind it. And so it's going to give our teachers and our students so many more resources and tools, so much more curriculum and resources that are uploaded in Canvas. I know that's probably not the great answer, Christy, I'm sorry. But what I did want to share, and you give me the opportunity to do that, is for some of our projects, some of our bigger projects that we're working on that I couldn't do all on my own, I've tasked a teacher on our staff to sort of run point and do some summer work for us. For a couple of these things. And so Emily Smith, Mrs. Smith, who has used Canvas before and is really excited about Canvas, she right now is in the process of really digging into Canvas, what it looks like, how it will work for STrEAM, and learning and mastering it herself so that she can be ready to teach our teachers. So what I'll do is, as soon as Ms. Smith is ready in the next couple of weeks, I will ask her to come on Morning Coffee and present on Canvas for you.
Thank you.
We have a question in the chat box from one of our parents. Does STrEAM plan to roll the pandemic, the science, economy, and politics, and BLM protests into the curriculum? We're living in historic times, and it'd be great to help the kids contextualize.
Absolutely. We've always done that. That's at the heart of project-based learning. So one of our founders, Scott Cleaver, hopefully some of you have had the pleasure to know him, and he actually got to teach at STrEAM for a little bit before he retired. Scott would always talk about when he taught at Begich, his dream of being able to do true project-based learning, where you can set the curriculum aside and really dig into an issue. And he would give the example of, if we had a massive, like an unprecedented snowstorm in Anchorage, that as a science teacher, there's so much science behind wind and weather patterns and snowfall and, all of these things that he would want to be able to set aside and explore and dedicate more time to. But at a big neighborhood school, but by nature, the bell rings and your kids have to go to the next class. And also, for good reasons, in traditional neighborhood schools, teachers don't often have as much leeway to set things aside and really dive into what's pertinent. And so that's sort of at the heart of STREAM Academy. So by the nature of being project-based is looking for those essential questions that you can't Google the answer to, right? And looking to find those questions connected to the curriculum in different ways, present those questions to students, and really dig deep in project-based learning. So I think our teachers will embrace and look for ways to wrap the issues that we've been facing and dealing with into project-based learning. I can't imagine that we won't use those opportunities. I know actually last spring, Miss Goodman already had a project. She was some of our staff jumped into project-based learning with the online platform, which is a big leap, and that's admirable. She was doing a project around infectious disease and the spread of infectious disease already last spring. So I anticipate that we will be embracing these issues and using them as learning tools and exploring them.
Okay,
Ms.
this is Sharon Wilson. I don't have, I'm new to this, and I'm gonna be new to your school. My grandson is gonna be a new incoming student.
Awesome,
And,
welcome, welcome.
And so my question is that I'm at a high risk category, so I don't want him to actually be on campus right away. But I was thinking that to keep him connected, if he would be allowed to attend some of those outdoor education pieces, if that would be possible to do those things, because I hate for, you know, how kids bond with each other. If you have all the other kids bonding and he's outside of that arena, to have some way that he still can maintain the safe distancing and participate and meet some of the new and
Yeah.
older students that's going to be there. So I want to keep him connected as much as possible, but yet keep myself safe.
Yeah, I totally understand. My hope is yes, we'll be able to do that. I really hope so. The only reason I think we wouldn't is if we got really strict direction from the district on that wouldn't allow us to do that. And as a charter school, you know, we have flexibility as long as it meets our mission and vision. And that outdoor experiential learning is part of our mission and vision. So Miss Gatlin, who helps to coordinate a lot of those things for us, has already been talking about ways we can take one group of students at least per week on an outdoor experiential type of excursion, where we have a small group and social distancing, and we can go off campus and we can do hikes and do exploring and things like that. And my hope would be that all students, virtual and face-to-face, either or, would be able to participate in those types of things. And I think you bring up a good point, which is how do we keep our students engaged and help them to become part of and stay part of the STrEAM family if they're doing virtual. And that's a big question on my mind, and that's something we'll really be conscious of. We'll really be trying to find ways to involve them.
That's
Okay,
also a
thank you.
question that's in the chat box. Someone had put in the chat box, my biggest concern is how do I keep my child stimulated and eager to learn while doing virtual or online classes? And will there be more contact or virtual face-to-face interaction?
Yeah, we want to, I've been talking with Miss Gatlin about this and she's excited about it. We have two staff members who are wilderness first aid, wilderness first responder trained, and which is a much higher level of, above like, first aid CPR training. It's a real extensive, pretty intensive course. And that's Miss Kracia and Miss Gatlin. And we've been talking about this, it's so important to us, virtual and face-to-face, that we are getting kids outside and experiencing the outdoors and experiencing our community and connecting the learning to the environment in the real world. And so we're going to be looking for those opportunities, and it only reinforces and helps that notion to hear more from parents that's what you're looking for. So it's going to be a priority of ours to get kids outside and keep the outdoor learning piece, but also to engage students who are doing things virtually. And like I said, the only thing that'll stop us from finding ways to do that for virtual students is if we have a directive not allowing that. But we will definitely look for ways to do that and have opportunities. I mean, if you have a student working virtually, and you're not comfortable having them come in the building, my thought on that, what Ms. Gatlin and I have discussed, is all you really need is a time and place. Be at the parking lot at the base of Flat Top at 8:30 a.m. for this group of 20 students that's going to stay 6 feet apart, and we're hiking Flat Top or we're hiking the Powerline Trail and with our science notebooks and taking notes on flora and fauna today, or the geography and geographic formations and so forth. I don't see, I could see a lot of potential in those types of learning opportunities, to where you're doing virtual because you don't want to be in a building, and that's great. And this day of the week, this part of our curriculum, you have the option to engage face to face and not come in the building. So that's going to be that sweet spot that we're going to seek, ways to offer opportunities to engage face to face and not necessarily inside of a building. And it also could look like another person I've got sort of running point on a project is Scott Perkins, another one of our teachers who started the school with us 5 years ago. And he's really been, if you have had Mr. Perkins, you know, he's big on outdoor education and experiential learning. He does a lot of our PE, and he's a really sharp teacher. He's running point on a project where we're trying to figure out if we can get an outdoor classroom space built. And so the idea is something that's more than, you know, just the backyard or the park if it's wet, or if, you know, it's a little bit of inclement weather or muddy, something, you know, sort of an open air gazebo or pavilion style space. And so he's working on the feasibility of that project. And so my vision with that is, you know, if we have a big pavilion, covered pavilion outdoors in the backyard at STrEAM, again, there could be a day of the week, you know, for where virtual students have the opportunity to show up, not even walk through the building, meet at the back gate for attendance or, you know, check-in purposes, and then meet in that open air, you know, pavilion type of space, which, you know, science and, you know, research, Dr. Zink specifically talked about it on our morning coffee, you know, that alone greatly mitigates the spread of a virus or infectious disease, just being outdoor and open air, as opposed to the enclosed space of a classroom. So sorry, you got me excited and then I talked too much. Joy Horn, your little blue hand has been up for a while now. Thank you for being patient. Do you have a question for us?
Oh, I got a laundry list. Very excited. We're new coming in.
Welcome. We're glad to have you.
Thank you. My son did great with the virtual learning at the end of last year. He got a little burnt out at the end. You know, he was over it. I think a lot of the kids were. They were super excited about coming back 2 days a week, and then boom, kibosh. Now we got 5 days online learning. Lots of concerns amongst the parents, you know, maybe. So that was my thing, because last time we spoke, there was the idea of a yurt and outdoor education. And I was like, yes, I will be there with tools to build a yurt. So I kind of wanted to follow up with that and go, hey, my husband and I were ready to go build a yurt with you. Whatever happened to that? So that's question one.
Good question.
Question two, I'm excited though to hear that there is going to be some outdoor learning, whether it's in a park or on a mountain or whatever. We'll find a way. Some parents won't find a way to be able to get their kid there. You know, I'm still a working parent. I'm actually at work right now. And that might come up. How are we going to get the kids there? I volunteered to drive kids, so I'm on that little list, registered and ready to pick kids up and take them places. But how are we going to work that out? Will kids get pads, computers, whatever it is? We don't have that problem, but I know a lot of parents are like, hey, we need supplies. So our old school, we literally drove up, we picked up a bag and a box full of goods that was like, this is everything you need for 3 months of a schedule. It's got everything you need in it. We're going to drive by, pick up, and then you take it home, and that's it. That's everything you need for 3 months. And then we'll get back to you and switch boxes later if we need to. So that was a question. When do we get schedules? When should we get supplies? Like, they're still going to need notebooks, you know? And my biggest concern that we had was schedule changes. My son was just trying to keep up with the constant schedule changes of when to log on, with what teacher, face to face. And unfortunately, that was the one thing his old school didn't do well. They just had a lot of schedule changes, and the schedule was constantly being updated and changed again, which I understand. And then last question, face masks. Are we going to be doing face masks? Can the kids do shields? I'll tell you, as a medical person, I have to wear a face mask a lot, and I'm over it. So these kids are going to get over it real quick. And if we can do shields instead, that might be better. I appreciate Joel and his concern about social emotional stuff with the kids. I'm concerned about that too. I think we all are. Being able to see people's faces is important. And I would love to be able to do shields instead of masks, but that's everything I got.
Wow, I should have called on you a long time ago. Those are great questions. I have some answers, some partial answers and some we're going to figure that out and let folks know answers. Number one, the building of an outdoor space. How do I explain this? I think, unfortunately, I hate to admit it, it's hard to admit, but I was a little naive in how I thought that could work. And I shouldn't have been, because I've been a principal for a long time. But the regulations and the expectations around a school building anything. And so, you know, when I envisioned this, I didn't envision the policy and procedural pieces that a school district requires. And when you spend public money, which our funds are public funds, to a large extent, you are bound by following policy and procedures and lots of red tape. That's there for good reasons, you know, to protect you know, meet codes and insurance and to protect students and parents. So unfortunately, I went into that thinking we could do this ourselves, and we can't. We have to follow a lot of steps through the school district, through their project management and the, you know, operations and maintenance department. And so we are still pursuing that. A good person to reach out to, I encourage all of you, can you put his info in the chat box, Sylvia? Reach out to Scott Perkins. He's our teacher, and you can always reach out to me too, and Sylvia will pass that on. So it doesn't have to be just be Scott. Reach out to one of us and we can forward it to Scott, or reach out to Scott. And if you're willing to volunteer, if you want to ask him more questions, because he's running point on this project. He's really excited about it. So we had a meeting yesterday with purchasing at ASD and got a good taste of, you know, all of the sort of the steps and the regulations we'd have to meet. It doesn't mean that we've ruled that out. What it means is, you know, we have to go through a more formal process to have a yurt or a gazebo pavilion built. We're still pursuing that. It's going to cost me a lot more than I thought it would. Again, I want to make sure I say this in ways that don't come across as negative, because I understand reasons for huge bureaucracies to have lots of layers of policy and extra things. For me to build this structure in my backyard versus to have it built to the specifications of spending public dollars and the express purpose of having school children in it, even if it's the same structure, it's the vastly different cost because we have to have an engineer approve plans and meet safety and codes and so forth. So that's a complicated one, but we're not giving up. We're going to work through. It might take longer and it might cost us more, but you know, one of the things I think fiscally, as our chief financial officer, you know, because we, as a charter school, receive our funds directly, so we have a lot more fund management to do. One of the questions I ask when we're looking at large expenditures always is it best for school? Is it best for our kids? Is it mission vision? Is it directly impacting the mission and vision of STREAM Academy? And this one is easy. It's a big expenditure, but it's a clear check mark in the yes, this is mission vision. Getting our kids outside, offering options for experiential and project-based learning for our kids and our teachers, meeting the needs of our students during this climate and this time. So sorry, that's sort of a long answer and not a great answer yet, but we're working on it. We're not giving up. There's more red tape. Tyler Robinson, I saw your name pop. Not reading the chat as we go, but Tyler, I'm hoping we can pick your brain more as a resource on this. And literally everybody who's on, if you have an interest in this project or some expertise and you want to help us or dig more into it, reach out to Miss Beyondich and I, Scott Perkins, and we'll talk more.
Tyler just noted that Winterberry ended up having to take their yurt down because they couldn't get it approved, fired.
Yeah, see, there's if again, if you build something for the purpose of kids and teachers using it with public dollars, even if you find an end around and don't ask permission up front, sometimes asking forgiveness doesn't work. So Tyler, that's exactly the kind of thing I was afraid of. because could I have made a deal with Wayland, and got their permission and just started building a platform and a yurt in the backyard of STrEAM? Absolutely. But what I realized is I mean, those codes are there for a good reason. And I realized we could come up against something like what you just described with Winterberry, where the school district came in and said, no, this isn't your backyard. This is a public school used facility, and this isn't up to code. So I want to pick your brain more though, Tyler. The second question Joy asked was about transportation. We've always done a really good job at STrEAM as a family, as a school community, of figuring that out. I don't think we've had very many situations where kids couldn't get transportation to where they needed to go and what they needed to do. Our parents, and like you talked about, Joy, you've already volunteered to join the force on this. Our parents carpool and ride share. We use the Muni, the public bus. There's a bus that pulls up right outside of STrEAM, basically. Pulls off of Muldoon right in front of the school there. And we've, some parents aren't comfortable with that, but we have had a lot of parents who are comfortable with their kids riding the city bus, and they've done that. Knock on wood, in 4 years, we've never had a single issue with a student riding a city bus. Nothing scary, nothing untoward. So, I mean, if something like that were to happen, we'd be all over that with the district, because they have a responsibility and a deal with the Muni on bus sharing. And we'd be all over that with the Muni. We talk closely with our representatives in East Anchorage, our people in the legislature. We've had them on this show before. Forrest Dunbar is a friend and an advocate for STrEAM, and Lance Pruitt has been an advocate for us. So we'd want to continue to keep things safe for our kids that way. So I think just in terms of the transportation issues, new challenges, but we'll rise up to meet them. We'll problem solve that, and we'll figure it out.
Adam, I think one of the keeping pandemic ideas in mind, once we create cohorts, we can, as things loosen up and we're allowed to have more face-to-face, we can create cohort bubbles that extend to the families. So there'll be a family, you could have family bubbles. And so that would help keep our students safe in their own bubble. So that's one of the things that we can consider when we're doing transportation.
So our cohorts are going to be 15 to 20 students. So if your child theoretically is in a cohort with 17 kids, they're already coming in contact every day, daily, when we're back face to face with those 17 kids. So it would stand to reason, if we're practicing safe practices, social distancing, face covering, and so forth, it would stand to reason that it wouldn't tremendously increase the exposure for those kids who are already in school together all day to do some types of ride sharing and things like that. I would leave that to parents to do what they felt was safe, but that makes sense. The third question Ms. Horn had was about computers and supplies, and the answer is yes. We checked out a Chromebook to every one of our students that requested it last spring. We have enough Chromebooks to be one-to-one with our students. We've ordered 15 new Chromebooks already, likely end up ordering more Chromebooks, and the big thing we're working on is what we didn't have, what we weren't prepared for was the cases. And so we're working on finding a nice case for the Chromebook. And actually the biggest order, or the biggest expenditure, surprisingly, probably will be chargers. Our Chromebooks all were in Chromebook carts, housed in carts. And I had to go, Mrs. Bionich and I dug in and had to actually pull the cords out of the carts to check them out. And it's a little bit laborious. So what I'm hoping to do is order extra charging cords so we can leave them in the carts so that they can be charged when they're in school, and then have a charging cord in the case for students. But yes, we'll, Mrs. Horn, we'll do that again. We'll provide Chromebooks to every student that needs them, and we'll provide supplies and things like we did last year, and really stay on that, meeting people's needs with that. As far as schedules and supplies, I do all of our scheduling. I have a schedule drafted for when we're back face to face. And I'm ready to go. I can anticipate sending out schedules to parents and letting them know what cohorts they're in, in a couple of weeks. And I can certainly, we're small enough where I can have that one-on-one conversation with any one of you anytime. You can call, you can email and just say, hey, I want to talk to you about what schedule is, and I have some requests, and we can work on that. I'm ready to split our students up and put them in their tracks and their first quarter classes. I haven't pulled the trigger on that just because of the uncertainty and waiting to see what they said at the board meeting. And now we're waiting to see if they officially, I know the superintendent speculated with the number of cases, we could be starting virtual. We're just waiting to see what the final decision is on that. And then the last question was about masks. The district's mandated that staff and students all wear masks when we're in the facility. So we're gonna be following that. But the question about the options is good. I'm really looking forward to some guidance from ASD on what masks will look like, what's allowable. Because I'd love to see that if the face shield is an option, that we can offer that. And personally, I've been wearing what I've found most comfortable is I've been wearing like a buff. And what I like about it is I can wear it around my neck and I forget it's there. And when I'm alone in my office or I'm outside, and then if I have a conversation, I can pull it up and double it up and it's up here and then drop it down. So I don't know what kind of regulations we'll get yet, but I look forward to that. Well, hopefully I hit on all your questions as well as I can, and thanks, and we'll keep looking for answers. Ms. Bionich, what do we have out there for the chat box? We have more questions there?
Yeah, on the cohort, if good friends are in other cohorts, will they stay the same all year?
I don't anticipate a lot of change in the cohorts. The idea is probably going to be to keep them together. Some students will be grouped in cohorts by necessity of, for example, I'll try to keep our kids who are in algebra in a cohort, and I'll try to keep the, kids in geometry together in a cohort, because everything else we do is pretty grade level. So the math is that variable where we want students to be at their level in math at all times. So those students, will be grouped together for sure as best I can. But I'm also open to requests. I mean, I have always, in the last 4 years, we have always taken calls or emails from parents saying, hey, my child and this child and our families are really close and we'd like them to be in classes together. We've always done that and made that work. So that would be the kind of thing where you want to reach out and, make some requests, and I make notes of those. And I think we do a pretty good job of, we don't have 1,000 students, so I can make those individual adjustments for people.
Stacy pointed out that some students are already bubbled together in friend groups, and we should try to consider that with the cohorts. And I think we will do that.
Yeah, definitely. Those are the kind of things I need, an email or a quick phone call or something from parents. And what I do every time a parent makes a request like that, I open my scheduling spreadsheet, Google Sheet, where I've got every kid, every grade level, every class that tentatively got them scheduled in, and I put a note right in right away. Parent requested they be together with this student and this student, and we've changed schedules in the past too. I've rolled out schedules, and we've had a little, a group of parents and families that are close say, hey, they came to STREAM together. We really want them in these classes together, and I've been able to meet that. So we'll continue to try to do that.
Melissa had written in the chat box a while ago, what types of materials and supplies will parents and guardians have the ability to access to support the at-home learning that will be occurring for either virtual or distance delivery component? Will there be an avenue through the school to facilitate individual purchases of additional materials if the family wishes to purchase them for themselves?
Good question. We've always put out recommended supply material list, and we try to keep that pretty basic.
Yeah, and that list is already up on the website.
I've never been a fan of having kids of my own. When I got the list of all the stuff they wanted us to go get at Walmart, and that I've been at big schools and done locker clean out at the end of the year, and the lockers are full of these Walmart bags with unopened packs of markers and stuff parents sent in just sat in the lockers. So we try not to do that. And we you know, one of the joys of being a charter school is we have full control over our funds to use, and we have a lot more discretion. And we've always spent a little more money on basic supplies and tried to keep that burden off families a little bit more. And you know, so we'll continue to do that. We'll continue to provide, well, we've provided some of the notebooks and things like that in the past. We'll continue to supplement that for folks. Once we know for sure what we're doing, and if we're starting, you know, on Canvas virtually, and teachers really get a chance to get going, you know, we'll have a much better idea of what kind of things people need.
We did a pretty good job at the beginning of fourth quarter getting supplies and computers delivered to families, and I think we can continue that.
Yeah, and Mrs. Bionich put together really nice supply bags where she put school supplies in all of them for everyone who asked, and we did home delivery of Chromebooks and school supplies. So we'll make it work. Okay, where are we at? Do we have more questions in the chat box, Mrs. Bionich?
I think we got all of the questions in the chat box filled. Melissa wants to tell us that the STrEAM team is awesome.
Thank you.
So we do try very hard to keep all lines of communication open, and that includes our website, the principal's blog. Occasionally you'll get something in the mail from us, and then morning coffee is, of course, one of our great communication tools. So I do think we have a lot of different avenues for people to learn and to ask. And then people are always welcome anytime to call the school.
Yeah. Call us, email us, reach out to us. We can't do enough of that. We don't mind. We really want to hear from you right now. We want to hear these questions. We want to hear what people are thinking and worried about. The only thing that would upset me or bother me would be to not hear from a family that is concerned or not happy or worried or has questions. That'd be the only thing that I wouldn't be happy about is, you know, it kills me to think there would be a STrEAM family who, you know, was unsure about what's happening or had questions and they didn't reach out to us and let us try to help. We're here to help. We're here to serve. We're trying to navigate all these challenges the very best we can, with our eye always on meeting the needs of our families and our kids. You that's what we're here for.
So Stacy says electives ?
Yeah, so it kind of goes back to when we come back face to face, students will have 3 classes. And they'll switch at quarter. So they'll have a math science block, or they'll have a language arts social studies blocks, and those will rotate. And then that third class of the 3 is essentially elective. It's STrEAM elective. So it's classes, it's options and classes that'll be within our mission and vision. So it'll be project-based learning time, it'll be STEM. You know, for example, you know, Ms. Dreger will probably integrate robotics at some point into that block, you know, and rocketry and things she does STEM wise. A lot of our teachers will use that block for outdoor experiential education, you know, work in PE type things, archery, you know, time out in the park, things like that. So we're not going to limit or pigeonhole ourselves by scheduling a really specific hard elective on that third block. What we're going to do is leave that third block of time open for teachers to do electives, to do things that are in our mission and vision, and to extend learning. So I you know, the example I gave earlier is if you've got a math science block, Ms. Dreger will probably take that third block of time to really extend project-based learning in a real world way, with the math and science things that they're working on. And it opens up a lot of possibilities for us.
Tyler points out that sounds more like project-based than elective. Yeah, might be better wording for the kids to understand what it is compared to last year.
Hopefully it's some of both. Hopefully it's the opportunity to extend project-based learning and to do whether it's bigger projects connected to the curriculum or it's smaller, fun projects, separate individual projects. But hopefully it's, it's some of that, but it's also some true elective type things, because they've got a 90-minute block 5 days a week, if we're back 5 days a week. So, I could see something to where teachers kind of split that up amongst themselves, and 2 days a week, Mr. Perkins takes a group to do archery, and Ms. Drager's has a group doing robotics. So it's just leaving that opportunity open for teachers to have more flexibility with it.
But we will take student input, I'm sure, when the cohorts are together and the teachers are talking about electives in their group, in their cohort. Yeah.
And
if I can, Adam, I think all of us are, obviously you're dealing with a lot of unknowns at this point, and I think all of us are trying to kind of establish expectations for our kids as much as we can, so we get them kind of grounded on where they're headed. So my question is it likely to be within the same cohort elective? So it's sort of group choice rather than it's like, hey, I can go here, there, or whatever, right? Like that's all I meant by it's not a true elective in the sense that, hey, we have this offering and if you want to go here. So I wanted to understand where you were headed with it.
Yeah, definitely. It'll be more cohort based. The direction we've got it, when we're face to face, is to keep those small cohorts together as much as possible. So one of the things I didn't mention when we're talking about that model is we're looking at cohorts staying together in one room. And if teachers decide they want to switch and teach more to their strengths, I'll allow teachers to switch. So for example, I explained this to Ms. Drager, she has a math, science, and project block cohort. She can stay with that group all day, or Ms. Staker will probably also have a math science cohort. They can switch. They can walk across the hall. She can do the science for one cohort and then next period do the science for the other, and vice versa. I'm going to give them that flexibility, but the kids would stay together in the same room, if that makes sense. And so then, yes, that it's not a true elective in that they're not going to have a passing time and, go to the thing that they chose, as much as within those one or two cohorts that are paired together, they'll have some options and do some different things. That's
Right.
Good clarification. Thanks, Tyler.
And we should point out they won't be in that room all day long, because we go outside every day, multiple times. So they'll be in the same group all day.
I actually developed a schedule yesterday because I we really want to minimize the crossover and like kids, being all together. Last year we'd have times where half the school was on break in the front parking lot for 10 minutes, and there's 60, 80 kids running around, which is fun and it's good for kids, but we want to minimize that. So I developed a break schedule yesterday where I took each of the 90-minute blocks and then blocked out 10-minute segments on a spreadsheet that teachers will sign up for in the front parking lot and then in the back fence yard. So if I'm teaching, cohort 6A, I'll go through that schedule for each block and pick my 10-minute chunk of time, each of those blocks where I'm taking kids to one of those outside places. So every hour we'll have that 15-minute out, break within the hour. And then those are like our scheduled outdoor breaks, and teachers will take other breaks within the classroom and so forth. So lots of outdoor time, lots of working breaks. That's always been important to us.
And they could be that they've already chosen to teach outside and they're already outside.
Yeah. Well, and that's the hope. We want our teachers to spend about a third of the time outside. So, we're working on coordinating that and scheduling that and figuring out how they can rotate through and really get outside. But our goal is that for about a third of the day, they're finding ways to get students in groups outside.
Joy Horn, our new David's mom, our new sixth grade student that's coming in, wants to know: will you be sending updates via email?
Yes.
Yeah, so that we can keep learning on what's happening with the school and Canvas and what they need to do as parents.
Yeah, and I know the first update I sent last week, I try not to have our updates be that long. I know that was a lot, of information crammed into one email. My hope is to break those up a little more and send more frequent updates about, a couple of these topics at a time. But yeah, we'll be sending at least weekly updates out.
Yeah, David's a seventh grader, sorry, not a sixth grader. Michelle wants to know that the Anchorage STrEAM school population is relatively small. And so given the ability to have cohorts and have groups outside, do you think ASD will consider opening our school?
I don't think so. I've given a lot of thought to how much. So as a charter school, we've got leeway. And a good example is last spring, the whole district went to Canvas, and I said, no, we already use Google Classroom. Our teachers are set up to continue their courses with students in Google Classroom. And we know we have a plan. I presented a plan, so we have a plan to make this work. And because we're a charter school and because we do things, differently, we have some leeway. And so it depends on what things that we really want to push on. I don't anticipate ASD allowing a charter school to be face-to-face if the whole district is not, just for the optics of that. And, but I don't have a hard answer on that yet. From the hip, I would say it's unlikely. That's something I think the district would draw a line in the sand on. That's something I think they would say, no way can we let one school open when we're keeping everyone closed. I mean, I'd love that. I'd love to be able to open up, and face to face with kids if we can do it safely. And the argument would be, we are small. We are a small school. We've talked about this. We're going to have 150, 160 kids, and we are not a school with 1,000 kids. So whereas a building that has the traffic of 1,000 kids, I mean, it's way more obvious and clear during a spike that you really shouldn't have 1,000 people in and out of that building. But for a school our size, you could make a case. And there may come a point, this is also new, and we don't actually know there hasn't actually been an official decision yet to start virtual. So there may come a point where we do pursue, permission to do something, a little different, but we're not there yet. Well, that was the fastest hour I've had in a long time.
Oh my gosh, it was.
That was good. I mean, it was great. We had so many people on. I'm so thankful for everyone that joined us, and we had great questions. Great. I feel like I talked way too much, which is pretty typical for me, but hopefully most of it was answering questions, and look forward to getting back on next Wednesday and doing it again.
Thank you, Principal Mokelke, for your leadership. We're in such a good place here at Anchorage STrEAM Academy, and I'm so proud to work here and to work for you and with the teachers that we have. So we're very, very lucky. Thank you. I appreciate it. We're doing everything we can to provide the best experience for our kids and our families, and we'll figure it out. We'll get through this, right? We will. This too shall pass. So I think now we can probably end our YouTube. I think all of our questions are over for now, and we can come back and meet everybody.
All right. I am going to end the YouTube live stream. For those of you that watched on YouTube today, or those of you watching at another time, thank you so much for joining us. And we'll see you next Wednesday at 8 a.m. for our next morning coffee, and we'll dig more deeply into these things and whatever new stuff comes up.